Are you merely living, or are you truly aware? Consider this. In moments of intense joy, do you simultaneously observe yourself experiencing that joy? When anger flares, does a part of you remain untouched, a silent witness? These aren't idle questions. They point towards a fundamental aspect of your being, often overlooked, a witnessing awareness distinct from the fluctuating states of your mind and emotions. Deepak Chopra, drawing from ancient wisdom like the Upanishads, two birds, one eating the fruit of life, the other watching, and philosophies emphasizing being in the world but not of it, suggests we possess a capacity for profound detachment, a way to engage with life without being entirely consumed by its drama. He reflects on his own journey, contrasting a life immersed in the relentless demands of medical practice with later insights into this observing self. This isn't about withdrawal, but about accessing a deeper dimension of existence. Think about the intricate biochemistry governing our feelings. Hormones like oxytocin, often called the love hormone. Yet its effects are not purely chemical. The context, our beliefs, our mental state, these are paramount. Oxytocin released under coercion doesn't foster bonding. Proximity to someone disliked doesn't create affection, regardless of biochemistry. This demonstrates a crucial point. The mind holds primacy. We are not just biological machines. There's an interplay between our automatic systems, the hormonal cascades, the autonomic nervous system, and the conscious agent, the you, that chooses, reflects, and directs focus. Who is this you that can consciously alter breathing patterns or heart rate, influencing involuntary systems? This you is the user of the brain, the traveler within the body, the source of thoughts that seem to arise from nowhere. Chopra terms the exploration and identification with this deeper self, going beyond, or meta. To be metahuman is to recognize yourself as this fundamental awareness, existing beyond the confines of linear time and physical space. Metareality is the boundless domain of this true self, the infinite wellspring of potential from which all creativity, novel thoughts, artistic inspiration, scientific discovery emerges. Every time you question meaning, choose love over fear, or make a judgment based on values rather than mere stimulus, you are, in fact, going beyond. Yet, if this potential is inherent, why do we so often feel trapped? Chopra points to self-imposed limitations, outdated beliefs, societal conditioning, the mind-forged manacles described by Blake as the source of immense suffering. The solution? Waking up. A conscious shift from the autopilot of the ordinary self to the full, vibrant self-awareness of the metahuman, accessing the entire spectrum of reality. We invest heavily in improving our lives, pursuing better health, greater wealth, longer lifespans. But how often do we consciously work to improve our reality? Consider two people commuting on the same crowded train. One experiences anxiety and frustration, the other observes with detached optimism. Same external situation, vastly different internal realities. This subjective lens, woven from beliefs, emotions, memories, interpretations, is what truly shapes our existence. Chopra argues that our personal reality dictates our experience far more profoundly than external circumstances. Humanity itself embodies a profound mystery, a duality of love and hate, peace and violence, crippling doubt and soaring confidence. Conventional knowledge often leaves a blank space where deep understanding should be. Abraham Maslow spoke of peak experiences, moments of profound connection and transcendence. Chopra extends this, suggesting the metahuman potential isn't just about fleeting peaks, but a stable shift grounded in identifying with our highest values: love, compassion, truth, self-worth. These states aren't reserved for saints or mystics. They are part of our inherent design, necessary for resolving the deep conflicts within us. But here's the core proposition. Our everyday reality, the one we take for granted, is largely a construct, a convincing illusion. Think about perception. A photo on your smartphone seems solid, yet you resize it with a gesture. Where did the extra image come from? We see light, but photons themselves are invisible. Our brain constructs the experience of vision from processed signals. Sound is fabricated from air vibrations, smell from airborne molecules interacting with receptors. Our retinas receive images upside down, the brain flips them. These aren't direct reports of an external world, they are internal constructions. Crucially, there's a difference between brain processing and mind-made meaning. We learn to read, assign significance to objects, interpret expressions, these layers of meaning are added by the mind. Our perception automatically adjusts for perspective, making distant objects appear smaller. Reality is mentally massaged. This mind-built world, this house of illusions, can feel utterly convincing. Yet, as William Blake warned, it can also become mind-forged manacles, trapping us in suffering based on faulty premises. Consider the power of a virtual reality headset. You know the sheer drop isn't real, yet standing on that virtual girder, your heart pounds, palms sweat. Why? Because the simulation, primarily visual, convinces a deeper part of your system. Our everyday reality operates similarly. We trust what we see, building our world upon sensory input that, as quantum physics reveals, depicts a reality far less solid than it appears. Seeing through this illusion won't stop a physical threat, but it fundamentally alters our relationship with personal reality, making it more malleable, more open to influence from its source, consciousness. Certain experiences directly challenge the illusion of being rigidly confined within our physical bodies. Near-death experiences, or NDEs, offer a compelling, if controversial, window. Dr. Pim van Lommel's studies, and later the AWARE study led by Sam Parnia involving over 2,000 cardiac arrest patients, investigated awareness during clinical death, defined as the cessation of heart, lung, and measurable brain activity. Parnia reported that nearly 40% of the 104 resuscitated patients recalled some form of awareness during this period. While most memories were vague, a small percentage reported detailed out-of-body experiences, OBEs, including one case with verifiable perceptions of events occurring while the patient was clinically dead. Skeptics posit subtle brain activity, but the data raises profound questions, echoing the ancient debate between physical and non-physical views of consciousness. Crucially, NDEs often lead to lasting personal transformation, prioritizing selflessness and connection. But focusing only on extreme states misses the fundamental mystery of normal consciousness. Neuroscience still grapples with basic questions. What is a thought? How does electrochemical neuron activity translate into subjective feeling? Can we predict the next thought? Where are words stored? Philosopher Thomas Metzinger, after experiencing a spontaneous OBE, developed the concept of the self-model. We don't just model the external world, we live inside an adjustable, often inaccurate, internal model of our own body, mind, and self. Neurologist Olaf Blanke induced OBE like sensations, doppelgangers, and sensed presences through specific brain stimulation, demonstrating the brain's role in generating our feeling of embodiment, supporting the self-model idea. Metzinger's VR experiments, where subjects felt touch on a projected avatar, further illustrate the constructed nature of our body sense. We need this model for stability, but it also traps us within its perceived limits. Sometimes, the carefully constructed walls of our reality crumble spontaneously. Lauren Roach, participating in a university experiment as a control subject, unexpectedly slipped into a deep meditative state. Later, encountering ancient yogic texts, the descriptions resonated perfectly with his experience. At a Bhakti festival, he described a state of ecstatic unity, a Bollywood of the atoms, where reality revealed itself not as solid matter, but as vibrant energy, light, and power. Skeptics might dismiss this as imagination distinct from the real world of physics labs. Yet Chopra argues, everything, including the perceived heat of fire, is ultimately mind-made interpretation. The crucial factor is our identification with the simulation. Pain offers another avenue where the illusion can momentarily break. Its perception is highly subjective. Consider the difference between plunging your hand into ice water versus a chef habitually handling hot pans. Neuroscientist Daniel Siegel, during a retreat, experienced overwhelming physical pain that suddenly shifted. The pain didn't vanish, but his relationship to it transformed. He became a detached witness, free from judgment, experiencing clarity. This snap into witnessing awareness is something traditional disciplines like tapas or Zen Buddhism aim to cultivate. Though success isn't guaranteed, the potential cessation or transformation of pain demonstrates the mind's profound power to disidentify from physical sensation. These experiences, along with NDEs and the concept of the self-model, converge on a single point. We are largely living within a self-generated simulation, a convincing story about who and where we are. While imagination offers fleeting escapes, the metahuman path seeks what Blake called organized innocence, integrating the wonder and fluidity of direct perception with functional living. Einstein linked retaining childlike wonder to profound discovery. Investigating the nature of reality isn't merely academic. It's about untangling ourselves from the illusion, rewriting our story into one of freedom, wonder, and connection to the source. This begins by shifting our perception of the body, not as a solid thing, but as interacting fields of energy and information, a dynamic process constantly unfolding within consciousness itself. The architect of this persistent illusion, the entity that benefits most from its maintenance, is the sense of I, the ego. Its emergence seems innocent enough, often linked to the moment a toddler recognizes itself in the mirror, around 18 months. Language acquisition further solidifies it, naming oneself, using me and mine. The terrible twos can be seen as the raw, unfiltered assertion of this nascent ego demanding centrality. This is me, pay attention. This initial impulse, though needing social tempering, forms the blueprint for the adult ego's ongoing project, interpreting reality solely through its own lens. My sunset isn't your sunset. Experience is filtered through the I. How does the ego construct and maintain this separate reality? Primarily through interpretation and attachment. Every raw experience, tasting spicy food, hearing music, feeling warmth, is instantly filtered through past conditioning and the ego's need for safety, preference, and control. This interpretation isn't neutral. It fortifies the ego's boundaries. I am the one having the experience, reinforcing the sense of a central separate self. Furthermore, the ego compulsively holds on to pleasure, identity, memories, beliefs, contrasting sharply with the natural flow of momentary experience. This clinging creates an illusion of stability, but accumulates baggage, habits, resentments, outdated conditioning. This collection of hardened past experiences forms the very substance of the ego construct. Its relentless drive for more wealth, status, approval, sensation, stems from a fundamental, manufactured sense of lack. Feeling separate and incomplete, it perpetually seeks external validation. True fulfillment, Chopra suggests, arises from needing nothing because one is enough, identified with the true self. The ego's agenda is inherently one of neediness and separation. This sense of I likely has deep historical roots. The emergence of personal names, the invention of mirrors, the puzzling evidence of mirror self-recognition in apes, elephants, dolphins, magpies, these hint at a widespread, ancient impulse towards self-awareness. Astonishingly old artifacts like the Venus figurines from Barakat Ram and Tantan, predating Homo sapiens, suggest a profound antiquity to self-representation. This is what I look like. Yet this perhaps initially adaptive sense of I grew excessively, metastasizing into malignant selfishness, destructive conflict, us versus them, prejudice, and the prioritization of ego needs over collective well-being. Choosing separation, humanity developed focused attention to edit reality, filtering overwhelming input through self-interest, me or not me. This editing creates expertise and emotional attachments, but inevitably excludes vast possibilities, reinforcing the very separation it stems from. If the ego constructs limitation, what lies beyond it? Infinite potential. Chopra asserts this isn't hyperbole, it's our fundamental nature, grounded in the boundless reality of consciousness itself. Potential isn't constrained by biology or physics as understood within our current limited framework. Anything can happen isn't chaos, but the signature of an open-ended creative source. Our inner world, thoughts, feelings, insights, imagination, is demonstrably limitless. The very capacity to envision something previously impossible, like flight, and then discover a path to achieve it through technology, not biological change, exemplifies this principle. Consciousness finds a way. Where do mind and matter originate? Chopra points to the quantum field, describing it not just as the basis of physics, but as a realm of pure potentiality, meta-reality, where mind and matter are indistinguishable possibilities, like soft clay. Ripples in this field interact, interfere, and eventually coalesce into the particles and structures we perceive. Crucially, both mind and matter emerge simultaneously from this common source. Consciousness isn't a latecomer. It's inherent in the foundation of reality. Our ability to consciously access or interact with this level, hinted at by quantum phenomena, grants immense leverage. the capacity to participate in creation before it solidifies into fixed forms. This open-endedness might feel uncomfortable to the ego seeking certainty, but for the creator, the painter before a blank canvas, the composer hearing nascent melodies, infinite potential is the ultimate freedom. This perspective reinforces the idea that consciousness uses the brain, not the other way around. The brain is the instrument, like a violin. Consciousness is the musician, the source of the music. The body-mind is the physical expression, the localized manifestation of consciousness. The brain cannot, by itself, leap into higher awareness. Only consciousness can evolve itself. We handle infinity constantly in everyday life without anxiety. The endless combinations of musical notes, the astronomical number of possible chess moves, the infinite generativity of language, the multiple meanings packed into single words. Recognizing this inherent comfort with the boundless in specific domains encourages us to expand it to our own being. Where is the evidence for this seemingly limitless potential? Consider the phenomenon of sudden savant syndrome, documented by researchers like Dr. Darold Treffert. Individuals, sometimes after brain injury or illness, or even spontaneously, suddenly acquire extraordinary skills, complex musical ability, intricate artistic talent, rapid mathematical calculation, often without any prior training or exposure. How does a brain learn calculus or perfect pitch instantly, without input? From a purely neurological perspective, it's deeply mysterious. Chopra interprets this as evidence of direct access, a download of knowledge or skill from the universal field of consciousness, Metareality, bypassing conventional learning channels. It demonstrates a latent potential residing within everyone, obscured by our normal filters. Creativity itself points towards this source. Efforts to train creativity often fall short because it's less a skill to be acquired and more a state of mind to be accessed. Specifically, a state of open connection to meta-reality. Attempts to hack, flow, or engineer peak experiences may induce temporary states but miss the deeper requirement. Cultivating a fundamental shift in our state of being, an alignment with the creative source, rather than merely manipulating brain chemistry. Meta-reality cannot be hacked. It must be accessed through resonance and evolution. Human evolution itself tells a unique story. Unlike animals that specialized physically, often reaching evolutionary dead ends, Homo sapiens' primary evolution occurred in consciousness. We developed abstract thought, complex symbolism, intricate social structures, self-reflection, a multidimensional awareness far exceeding mere intelligence. Comparing our capacities to even highly intelligent primates reveals a fundamental difference, a great reality shift transcending genetics. Look at the prehistoric cave art of Chauvet, dating back over 30,000 years. The sophistication, the depiction of movement, the possible symbolic meanings, the sheer artistry, all point to an early holistic mind integrating curiosity, intelligence, skill, purpose, and likely spiritual dimensions. These weren't just pictures. They were expressions of a consciousness already engaging with reality in profound, multifaceted ways, the seeds of the metahuman. Even mundane activities reveal this integrated whole mind. Driving to buy a cake requires conceptual understanding, emotional motivation, planning, memory retrieval, complex motor skills, continuous judgment. The brain seamlessly shifts between states, reading peacefully one moment, reacting instantly to danger the next, without a visible conductor. Neuroscience struggles to explain subjective experience, map thoughts precisely, or find clear anatomical correlates for genius. The conclusion: you are the intelligence that directs the brain. Embracing this self-awareness, recognizing our connection to the infinite, whole mind of meta-reality, is the path to realizing our true potential. What does meta-reality ultimately offer? Absolute freedom. Not just freedom from external constraints, but the intrinsic boundlessness of awareness itself. The natural state where anything is possible becomes an experiential reality. Yet, we often feel trapped, echoing Hamlet's lament of the world as a sterile promontory. Even as we recognize our potential, infinite in faculty, like a god, we remain confined. Why? The paradox lies in our fear of freedom itself. Absolute freedom, being inherently rule-less and wall-less, presents a terrifying expanse of the unknown to the ego, which thrives on control, predictability, and known boundaries. Human history, Chopra suggests, can be read not as a relentless pursuit of absolute freedom, but as a cautious negotiation with successive boundaries, driven by fear and the desire for security within defined limits. The endless proliferation of thou shalt nots. This deep-seated fear, rooted in the ego, prevents us from using our open ticket to everywhere. The fundamental obstacle, the lock on the cage door, is the divided self. This is the internal schism, the perceived conflict between our higher and lower natures, our aspirations and our perceived flaws. This internal division is then projected outward, manifesting as the endless wars of opposites that dominate human history and personal experience. Good versus evil, light versus dark, us versus them. This mental construct, born of confusion about our true identity, forces reality into a dramatic, conflict-ridden narrative. Absolute freedom requires transcending this duality, recognizing the underlying unity from which all opposites arise. Metareality exists beyond this battlefield. Accessing metareality is synonymous with healing this fracture, achieving wholeness. The journey involves recognizing the subtle, often invisible evolution of consciousness that has been occurring despite our entanglement in conflict. Consider Ötzi the Iceman, preserved for over 5,000 years. His sophisticated tools, copper axe, bow and arrows requiring complex planning and foresight, speak volumes about the cognitive explosion, the expansion of human awareness. Yet the arrowhead lodged in his back reveals the simultaneous persistence of conflict, the signature of the divided self operating even within this expanding consciousness. How did we become so deeply entangled in limitation and conflict, despite our potential for freedom? Chopra argues that humanity collectively lost the connection to our source, pure consciousness, by becoming mesmerized by the complexities of the mind, the endless waves of thoughts, beliefs, and emotions, forgetting the underlying ocean of awareness. We became lost in the products of consciousness, identifying with specific stories, religious, national, scientific, personal, and fragmenting knowledge, thereby reinforcing the illusion of separation. The current dominant story is arguably that of scientific rationalism. While acknowledging its immense benefits in overcoming superstition and advancing knowledge, contrasting the terrified response to the Black Death with Harvey's discoveries about circulation or the fight against witchcraft beliefs, Chopra critiques its inherent limitations when it becomes the only accepted narrative. He might point to thinkers like Steven Pinker, praising the documentation of progress driven by reason, but questioning the dismissal of consciousness, the hard problem, as irrelevant or illusory, and the insistence on explaining uniquely human traits like morality, aesthetics, and truth-seeking solely through Darwinian adaptation. Reason, while a powerful faculty of consciousness, cannot encompass the whole. When idolized, it can lead to its own forms of blindness, failing to address the deeper reality of subjective experience, and ignoring the source consciousness from which reason itself arises. It can even be used to justify destructive actions, creating sophisticated weaponry with cold logic. Yet even within science, glimpses of a deeper reality occasionally emerge. Physicists like André Linde argue compellingly that perceptions, pain, color, sweetness, are primary data. Matter, Linde contends, is a theory based on these perceptions. Materialism struggles with the fundamental nature of experience. Linde advocates for including consciousness in cosmological models, noting that the universe's wave function, in some interpretations, requires an observer to evolve from potentiality to actuality. This resonates with the insights of quantum pioneers like Planck, consciousness is fundamental, and Heisenberg, nature exposed to our method of questioning. It echoes Einstein's philosophical reflections, his call for science to broaden its perspective beyond mere data, seeing the forest, not just the trees, and his famous description of the sense of separation as an optical delusion of consciousness, a prison we must escape. Ignoring this deeper unity comes at a profound human cost. Metareality, the realm of absolute freedom and wholeness, offers the escape route, accessible by seeing through the illusions constructed by the conditioned, rationalizing mind and reconnecting with fundamental awareness. What then is the ultimate nature of reality? Chopra proposes a new creation story, one that moves beyond the paradoxes of the Big Bang, what banged, what existed before, and traditional theism, who created the creator. This story posits consciousness as the eternal, uncaused ground of being. Consciousness doesn't need a beginning. Its very nature is to exist and express its infinite potential. It creates reality not like a detached clockmaker setting things in motion, but as the ongoing immanent source and substance of everything. Genesis now. The universe, life, mind all arise within and as modifications of consciousness. This view challenges human exceptionalism regarding awareness. Drawing on thinkers like Deepak Chopra, the script argues that cognition, or mind, is inherent in life at all levels. Consider the painted lady butterfly. Its senses are utterly alien to us, tasting with legs, hearing with wings, seeing through 30,000 lens eyes, yet it navigates, migrates, reproduces. This implies a form of consciousness, radically different from ours, but consciousness nonetheless. Life implies awareness. This extends the domain of consciousness far beyond complex brains, aligning with the idea that it is fundamental, everything, always, and everywhere. The sheer impossibility of truly knowing another species' inner world underscores the primacy of subjective experience within the boundless field of consciousness itself. How does diversity arise from this unity? Consciousness differentiates within itself, creating the experience of subject and object, mind and matter, seer and seen. Imagine gold being shaped into countless different pieces of jewelry. The forms change, but the underlying substance remains gold. Similarly, feeling happy or sad, perceiving a tree or a star, these are different modes of consciousness experiencing itself. The universe is consciousness playing at being atoms, galaxies, brain cells, thoughts. This play, Leela, is inherent, requiring no external purpose. Therefore, mind is not a separate entity, but the subjective flow of consciousness modifying itself as thoughts, feelings, sensations. Body is not a machine, but the objective appearance of consciousness localized as felt experience, energy, and information. Brain is the physical correlate, a dense pattern of modified consciousness serving as an interface. Universe is the large-scale manifestation of consciousness, modifying itself according to inherent patterns we perceive as natural laws. The apparent fail-safes of our reality, linear time, cause and effect, psychological defenses, are constructs within consciousness designed to maintain the stability of our current experiential world, our virtual reality. They filter infinite potential to prevent overwhelm, but in doing so, they obscure the true nature of reality as fluid, simultaneous, and unified. The most radical claim underpinning the metahuman perspective is this: existence and consciousness are not two separate things. They are fundamentally the same. To exist is to be aware or knowable at some level. Consciousness is the inherent knowingness inseparable from existence itself. Seeking a cause and effect relationship between them. Does existence cause consciousness? Does consciousness cause existence? Is Chop logic missing the fundamental identity? As Chopra puts it, existence and consciousness are the same thing. This implies that meaning, purpose, intelligence, creativity, love, joy are not late-stage emergent properties of complex matter, but inherent qualities of existence, consciousness itself, present from the very beginning. The universe is intrinsically meaningful because consciousness is meaning. Creativity is as natural as breathing, not something learned externally. Consider Jeremiah, the earliest known placental mammal ancestor. The evolutionary leap to placental birth wasn't strictly necessary for survival. Marsupials and egg layers thrived. Chopra frames this not just as adaptation, but as an expression of consciousness's inherent drive to explore novel forms, a creative impulse exceeding mere survival logic. Evolution becomes consciousness, exploring its possibilities. This view directly challenges the model where the brain creates mind. Infant development offers compelling counter-evidence. The brain undergoes explosive growth, overproducing neurons and synapses, which are then drastically pruned. How does the brain know which connections to keep for future, unknown skills like music, mathematics, or language long before they are actively used? This suggests a non-local intelligence, consciousness, guiding the process, preparing the instrument. Studies show speech-related brain areas active in infants before they speak, indicating consciousness anticipates future needs. The meaning explosion around age 2, where toddlers form novel sentences they've never heard, demonstrates innate linguistic creativity surpassing mere imitation or algorithmic processing. Meaning cannot arise spontaneously from meaninglessness. Intuition, the sudden insight, the instant recognition, the knowing, without knowing how you know, points to the mind accessing knowledge directly from the field of consciousness, bypassing linear processing. Consciousness is a field of meaning. Experiments where people interpret nonsense syllables as meaningful sentences illustrate the mind's innate drive to find or impose meaning, reflecting the nature of the underlying field. Even an amoeba distinguishing food demonstrates rudimentary meaning-making inherent in life. While this mind field can become a minefield due to negative conditioning, as Aldous Huxley noted with his reducing valve metaphor, the limitation isn't inherent in the brain, but in how consciousness uses the brain, conditioned by fear and survival focus. The potential remains to open that valve, not necessarily through external means, but through self-awareness. How then to begin the practical journey of waking up from the illusion? The starting point, the essential method, is putting experience first. As the old joke goes, when asked for directions, the farmer replies, "Well, I wouldn't start from here." Similarly, you cannot reach meta-reality, the realm of true reality, while clinging to the assumptions and frameworks of virtual reality, the dream state we inhabit. We need a loophole within the dream itself. That loophole is direct, raw experience. Regardless of content, sailing a boat, baking bread, undergoing scientific observation, or having an NDE, all reality is accessed as conscious experience. The crucial shift is from focusing on the objects of experience to the process of experiencing itself. Consider your coffee cup. It seems like a solid, independent object, but analyze your experience. It's a synthesis of discrete sensory inputs: warmth, color, aroma, the clink against the table, the taste. Take away these perceptions, and the experiential object dissolves. This isn't denying an external world, but recognizing that our sole access point is consciousness. Trees, stars, your own body, they exist for you only as bundles of perception unified by the mind. Accepting this experience-first principle unlocks the metahuman path. It levels the playing field. Even abstract scientific knowledge, dark matter, quantum fields, distant galaxies, is ultimately grounded in someone's conscious experience, observing data, interpreting equations, formulating theories. This places exotic scientific knowing on the same experiential footing as a child learning the alphabet. Recent discoveries reveal our senses interact with reality at the quantum level, detecting single photons, hearing atomic scale vibrations, distinguishing trillions of smells down to the molecular level. This isn't just heightened sensitivity, it suggests our awareness actively participates in reality's manifestation, potentially influencing the transition from quantum potentiality to perceived actuality, the observer effect made personal. We are not passive receivers, but participants woven into the quantum fabric. Practically, this means deconstructing reification, the mental habit of solidifying processes into static things. Feel your body not as a fixed object, but as a dynamic flow of sensation, energy, information, constant cellular exchange. See the world not as nouns, but as verbs. This thawing of perceived solidity brings awareness closer to the creative source where reality is fluid and malleable. Prioritizing experience bypasses the ego's constant interpretation, allows access to deeper intuition, and creates space for the silent, witnessing I am, the true self, to emerge as the stable ground behind all fleeting phenomena. If experience is the access point, what is the primary obstacle obscuring meta-reality? Our profound attachment to stories. Humans are storytelling animals. Narratives provide meaning, coherence, identity. From ancient myths explaining the cosmos to the personal narratives defining who we believe we are. I am a doctor. I am unlucky. I am an optimist. Stories structure our world. Virtual reality itself is a vast web of relationships held together by these shared and individual narratives. However, when we rigidly identify with these stories, they become prisons. I am X becomes a fixed framework limiting perception, dictating behavior, creating separation, us versus them. Clinging to stories is a root cause of suffering. It freezes the fluid present moment into interpretations based on the past or anxieties about the future. Defending our narratives inevitably leads to conflict. Stories are the ego's primary building material and defense mechanism. Filtering all experience through pre-existing narratives blocks direct perception of reality as it is. preventing fresh insight and authentic connection. Psychiatrist M. Scott Peck observed how denial and avoidance of responsibility are mechanisms for clinging to self-defeating stories. The crucial distinction is between the narrative self, the character playing a role in our mental movie, and the true self, which is storyless awareness. Most suffering belongs to the narrative self. Going beyond stories means disidentifying from this constructed character. Evidence suggests life thrives beyond narrative constraints. Researcher Jeffrey Martin studied individuals reporting states of persistent awakening or non-symbolic experience. Many described losing their sense of personal identity and story, yet experienced increased peace, freedom, well-being, and significantly reduced mental chatter. This suggests story dissolution is beneficial. Spontaneous awakenings, sudden genius, even phenomena like hyperthymesia, superior autobiographical memory, which can be burdensome if not integrated, hint that consciousness can break free from narrative limits. How do we loosen the grip? Not through force, but awareness. Observe the mind's constant narration without automatically believing it. Gently question deeply held beliefs. Is this story absolutely true? Consistently return attention to the non-narrative reality of present-moment sensory experience. Recognize the universal patterns of storytelling in others to gain distance from your own. Crucially, beware of replacing worldly stories with spiritual ones. True liberation lies beyond all conceptual frameworks, allowing direct contact with meta-reality, non-narrative, ever-present awareness. What is the most effective way to navigate beyond the stories and illusions towards meta-reality? Chopra advocates for the direct path. This contrasts with conventional approaches, religious or secular, often based on indirect methods: striving, accumulation of merit, behavioral modification through reward and punishment, carrot and stick. These methods, he argues, remain trapped within the ego's framework of desire and fear. Striving for a future enlightenment, seeking external validation, or trying to perfect the narrative self ultimately reinforces the illusion. The direct path's goal isn't a future reward, but the immediate realization of present wholeness. Wholeness is inherently healing, ending the divided self, unshakable and timeless. Its value lies in its reality now. The core practice is deceptively simple: shifting identification. Move attention from the specific, limited I am X, I am tired, I am successful, I am a parent, the ego personality tied to roles, conditions, and stories, to the universal, boundless I am. This is pure existence, awareness itself. It's not about adding something new, but recognizing what is already always present beneath the surface fluctuations. This path is characterized by effortlessness. It's not a struggle against the mind, nor a self-improvement project aimed at fixing a flawed persona. Such efforts are traps of the ego trying to co-opt the journey. Instead, the focus is on presence, grounding awareness in the here and now, which naturally bypasses the ego's preoccupations with past regrets and future anxieties. Does this mean desire is absent? Not entirely. A subtle, refined desire to be real, an innate curiosity about existence itself, acts as the gentle guiding force. It's like using one thorn to remove another. This fundamental yearning draws awareness towards its source without the frantic striving of the ego. It replaces the need for forceful discipline. The practice involves discernment, distinguishing the real, changeless awareness from the unreal, passing thoughts, sensations, phenomena. How? Regularly pause during any experience and simply acknowledge, this is the play of consciousness. This isn't analysis. It's recontexting, reminding the mind of the deeper reality. Cultivate the witnessing stance. Observe mental and physical events flow by without entanglement, like sitting on a riverbank. Allow experiences, even difficult ones, to arise and pass without resistance. Trust the direct knowing, the intuition that arises from silent awareness, rather than relying solely on intellect or emotion. Seeing past mistaken beliefs, separation, materialism, time limits, happens through these flashes of insight. Initially, this cultivates awareness of the self and the play. Ultimately, the distinction dissolves. Witness merges with witnessed. You know yourself as the flow, the consciousness creating the experience. This is the state of being fully awake. Living as metahuman involves embodying this awareness in every aspect of existence, starting with our relationship to the physical body. We typically experience the body as a separate, limited, vulnerable object, subject to aging and decay. This perception is a powerful anchor holding us within virtual reality. Chopra argues the body is your story in physical form. Every experience, belief, trauma, habit gets encoded not just neurally, but cellularly, perhaps even epigenetically. Common complaints, I hate my body, regrets about lost youth or fitness, reveal our identification with this conditioned, time-bound narrative, often leading to feelings of victimhood. Freeing the body means shifting this perception, experiencing it directly as awareness. Practices involve moving beyond conceptual ideas about the body to the direct felt sense. Tune into its inner processes, breath, heartbeat, not as mere mechanics, but as rhythms within awareness. Explore conscious influence like using vagal breathing techniques, e.g. 4 seconds in, hold 2, 4 seconds out, to calm the nervous system, demonstrating mind-body unity. Experience the interior of the body not as solid organs, but as chit akash, inner space, open and allowing, through which awareness moves freely. Then, consciously expand this sense of awareness beyond the skin, dissolving the rigid boundary between in here and out there. Rest in the feeling of the body as unbounded, fluid awareness, a dynamic process, not a static noun. This reverses reification, thawing the frozen concept. The benefits are practical: stress reduction, release of tension, calming anxiety, centering awareness. It reconnects us with the body's innate self-regulating intelligence. This transformed relationship alters our perspective on health, aging, and mortality. Identifying with the unchanging awareness behind the physical form reduces fear and opens possibilities for greater well-being and conscious participation in healing. The ultimate aim isn't just overcoming limitation, but discovering the body's potential to be experienced as Ananda, the bliss body, the inherent joy of consciousness expressing itself through form. Just as we free the body from its perceived limitations, we must recover the whole mind. The ordinary mind is often fragmented, restless. The monkey mind, jumping between thoughts, memories, worries, operating on the shallow surface of discursive thought, disconnected from deeper presence. This state results from identifying with the ego and its narratives. In contrast, the whole mind is grounded in its source, pure consciousness. It is characterized by stillness, the quietude beneath thoughts, clarity, undistorted perception free from conditioning, presence, anchored in the now, creativity and intuition, direct access to the source's potential, and unity, integrating faculties effortlessly. How do we recover this inherent wholeness? Primarily through witnessing awareness. Observe thoughts arise and pass without judgment or identification, recognizing I am not my thoughts. Like ripples on a lake, thoughts are temporary disturbances on the surface of awareness. Become aware of the silent space, the gap between thoughts. Meditation, whether using mantra, mindfulness, or self-inquiry, is a key tool for settling the mind and experiencing this underlying silence. A simple practice: upon waking, before engaging thought, simply rest in the eyes open, no thoughts state, experiencing pure awareness without conceptual content. This breaks the habit of automatic thinking. Recovering the whole mind involves consciously moving beyond the brain's default filtering mechanisms, like the default mode network. While substances might offer temporary glimpses past Huxley's reducing valve, sustainable integration comes from awareness-based practices like meditation and contemplation, leveraging neuroplasticity guided by conscious intent. This process naturally dismantles conditioning and dissolves attachment to limiting stories. The stillness provides the space to see patterns clearly and disidentify. The subtle desire to be real, the innate pull of the self, gently draws the mind back towards wholeness once the ego's frantic striving relaxes. Recovering the whole mind isn't about achieving a special state, but returning to our natural condition of unified awareness, allowing us to live with greater peace, creativity, effectiveness, and authentic connection. The culmination of freeing the body and recovering the whole mind is living in choiceless awareness. This state transcends the stressful paradigm of constantly needing to make the right choices, a paradigm rooted in the ego's fear and desire. Choiceless awareness recognizes that from a state of wholeness, the appropriate action arises spontaneously and perfectly, aligned with the flow of existence, without needing a separate chooser to deliberate or struggle. It embodies the principle of Wu Wei, effortless action or not doing. This isn't passivity, but action arising from stillness, perfectly attuned to the situation. Think of the body's innate intelligence effortlessly managing complex processes like healing or digestion, or an expert athlete in the zone, performing flawlessly without conscious thought. It involves surrendering the ego's need to control and understand everything intellectually, embracing the mystery, and trusting the inherent intelligence of consciousness to organize events. Meaningful coincidences, synchronicities, become more apparent, recognized not as random chance, but as signals from the unified field, guiding action. A key practice involves experiencing the unmoving witness. Mentally remove all objects, sensations, even the body, and notice the persistent awareness, the I am that remains, I'm still here. Identifying with this unchanging background is the foundation of effortless action. This state connects directly to practical immortality. Living from the timeless, unchanging self dissolves the fear of death and attachment to transient forms. It means seeing beyond symbols to underlying reality, communicating with the immortal by being the immortal awareness. You are no longer just witnessing the river of life. You are the river. The sense of a separate doer dissolves into the action itself. This realization naturally expands to encompass all existence. The fully realized metahuman lives from the understanding of one life, confronting the ingrained human tendency towards separation and superiority. Evidence from nature: sophisticated animal consciousness, bees navigating, octopuses recognizing individuals, the holographic principle, part contains the whole, physics hinting at a participatory universe, Wheeler. All point towards a universal consciousness expressing itself through diverse forms. Living this unity means dissolving final separations, fostering universal empathy, acting as responsible stewards, and experiencing the world as a seamless expression of one unified field. Phenomena perceived as miraculous become potential expressions of consciousness operating beyond our usual limited constructs. It's a choice for wholeness, an individual awakening contributing to collective evolution. Ultimately, the metahuman journey culminates in the lived realization of one life. This means moving beyond analyzing behavior, whether human, animal, or subatomic particle, to understanding the behavior of consciousness itself as the unifying reality. We must confront and dismantle our ingrained human centrism, the illusion of separation from nature and other beings. The path involves recognizing consciousness as universal, evident in the complex behaviors of diverse species, suggesting awareness is not exclusive to human-like brains. It means understanding our individual consciousness as a holographic reflection of the cosmic whole, capable of accessing and participating in the universal field. The universe itself can be seen as a manifestation of underlying possibilities within cosmic consciousness, a process mirrored in our own ability to create reality from concepts. Living the one life dissolves final separations, self-other, human nature, life, non-life. It naturally fosters universal empathy, compassion, and responsible stewardship of the planet. The world is experienced not as separate objects, but as a seamless, flowing expression of a unified field. While the concepts presented, reality as illusion, consciousness as primary, the body as awareness, the power of story, the direct path to wholeness, may seem challenging or even shocking from the perspective of ordinary reality, Chopra insists this shift is necessary for true liberation and collective well-being. Waking up allows the direct experience of the one life, moving beyond the endless conflict of opposites. It addresses the root problem, the state of separation maintained by the conditioned mind. Collective evolution occurs through individual awakening. The path forward involves practical, daily steps, aiming to see reality more clearly, feeling less entangled in illusion, consciously releasing the grip of clinging and the need for external validation. The 31 lessons offered in Metahuman provide a framework for this experiential exploration, testing the principles through direct awareness. We are a self-created species, currently operating with limited awareness. By waking up fully, eyes wide open, we access our inherent creative potential as metahumans, capable of consciously participating in the creation of a reality grounded in wholeness, unity, peace, and the infinite possibilities of consciousness. Are you ready to explore your metahuman potential?